Real Talk with Grace Redman features conversations with fierce and fabulous people from Grace's community and circle who inspire others with their stories of overcoming challenges to create amazing. Grace is an entrepreneur and success coach who works with individuals to diminish their negative mental chatter, boost their confidence, achieve their goals, and increase their prosperity mindset. Get ready for a series of anything goes conversations with remarkable men and women that will get you jazzed for life's unlimited possibilities of success, freedom, and fun. Welcome to Real Talk with Grace Redman.
And thank you for those of you who have joined us and maybe we can't see, and thank you for those of you that are joining us on the replay. I'm super excited to do my first Real Talk podcast episode live streaming with one of my favorite people, Brandi Strieter. Good morning, Brandi.
Hi, friends. Hi, Grace. Yeah. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you to our audience. Okay. Let them know who you are. All right, here we go. So Brandi has walked an eventful journey through hopelessness and despair from several years of struggling with painful and debilitating symptoms of an eventual chronic Lyme disease diagnosis. That journey led her into surrendering and finally ultimate freedom. Brandi has since vowed to never let another soul suffer the same fate, and she has made it her purpose to shine light for those in darkness. She now guides those who have awakened to their own light by utilizing her knowledge and wisdom of many diverse spiritual teachers and developed ideologies, as well as accessing the help of intuitive guidance, energy healing, and the mind-body-spirit connection so that she can support those seeking true spiritual alignment. Girl, I'm so happy to be here with you today.
That sounds like so professional. It kind of intimidates me.
No. So I want to tell them a little bit about how, we met.
Please.
And I joined a mastermind with our mentor, Sunny Dawn Johnston, and you were in that mastermind. It was a small group of 9 or 10 of us. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had just started to own, my spirituality and step into my intuition because I had been a little bit, nervous. And then here you are, you show up and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. You're so in tune and so, connected to your, higher self. And I admired that. And I was like, oh, she's, been connected to herself, probably for the last 20 years. And here I am starting my journey. and then I find out something a little bit different. So I had this perception. So tell us a little bit how you got started on your spiritual journey.
Yeah. So Grace and I met 2 years ago in Sunny Dawn Johnston's mastermind group. And so the last 2 years have just been a total ride with Grace. And I'm so grateful for your friendship and collaboration. And so really, I was relatively new to this. It was 2000 into 2014, my mother transitioned to spirit after an illness. And prior to that, I had been completely, I used to identify myself as an atheist. I believed in science and was really, despite having gone to Catholic school and been surrounded by religion, just never really felt connected the way other people did to religion. And it really wasn't until my mom transitioned that I started to wonder, what happened? What was out there? What was the purpose of life? All of those questions started to come in.
That question.
Right. And so I dabbled a little bit, with books and teachers, kind of longing longing to make sense of what I went through. My mother had a very long period on hospice, and it was during that time really that I opened the door a little bit to the possibility that maybe there was something more that I didn't know.
And what was the thing that or the moment that helped you open that door to realize okay, there's something bigger than us here?
Well, of course, I missed my mom, of course, and I wanted that connection, but it really wasn't until my body began to manifest disease and illnesses that I needed some understanding of what was happening to me. So I never understood the mind, body, spirit connection before illness came to my body. But once it did, and Western medicine wasn't able to help the way I thought that they would be able to, I then surrendered, is the word that came in, to the possibility that I needed to go within.
And when you say surrendered, what did that mean to you? When you surrendered, what did that look like?
Well, I think that I just got choked up, right? So surrender for me was hitting rock bottom. Surrender for me was after over a year of debilitating symptoms without answers, that was affecting the quality of my life, in which I was dying. And then being trained and being taught that doctors had the answers, and going down that route and learning firsthand and having an experience that perhaps maybe they didn't have all the answers, and perhaps there was more behind the scenes that I was unaware of.
I can relate to what you're saying, because as a young mother, I had just lost my mom to illness, to cancer, and all of a sudden I started to experience all types of physical ailments, headaches, backaches, stomach aches. I think actually my stomach ache started when I was 10 years old. Right. And not until probably the last few years, I don't know how long I've been doing this coach, the last 5 years, did I learn that our physical symptoms are attached to our emotions. I had no idea. I didn't realize that because of all of the people pleasing and the stress I was putting on myself and the perfectionism and holding everything inside me, not talking about anything, showing up with a smile, I didn't realize that it was all manifesting into my body, it was one physical, ailment after another.
Exactly.
And I don't think we realize that. I don't think we realize that our emotional body goes into our physical and then manifests into these illnesses. And I think something we have in common is both our moms, like you said, transitioned from illness. And
prematurely, right?
Yeah,
prematurely.
Exactly. And I know my mom, she always held everything in and wanted to please everybody and do everything.
So I dislike this word, but I was a classic codependent. I was trained to put others before myself, and it's literally taking me decades to unwind those patterns. And although I was very loved as a child and very wanted, and all of that, my mother, my parents, but specifically, the same gender parent, my mother was not able to love herself. The bottom line was my mom didn't know how to love herself. And because she didn't know how to love herself, she didn't know how to teach me how to love myself. And so that is the root cause of all of the suffering that we have had.
Yes. Yes. And I can relate, same thing, with my mom. Of course, she loved me, but it's also was, she was conditioned as a girl. We take care of everyone else. We please everyone else. If you looked within, or if you took care of yourself, you were selfish. So same thing. So she was just like my grandmother was conditioned. My mom was conditioned. They began to condition me as well to look outside of ourselves for everything, to be the people pleaser, be codependent. And again, it's like, they don't know, we don't know until we know. And you're right. The core theme, story, the root to all of it is self-love.
Yeah. And I remember I was in modeling and TV commercials and stuff as a child. And I remember being as young as 2 and 3 with makeup on I slept with, I don't know, do you remember those pink foam
Yeah.
curlers? I slept every night with curlers in my hair, and they hurt. I mean, as a child, you don't want to sleep with curlers in your hair. And I remember just being so resistant to why it was so important to the outside world, what I looked like. Where inside I was screaming, but I'm here, I'm still here. It doesn't matter. But that was ingrained in us, right? As it mattered what we looked like. At least for me, that was like the very most important thing.
Us too.
And then I could never live up to that, right? Because we just can't.
Well, no. And that I experienced that too. It's like from a young age, it was like, they put me on a diet and I couldn't leave the house without lipstick. And because I'm short, so I always had to wear heels. And so I was taught that my worth was based on my looks. And then I would never be good enough because their ideal image was not me.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I was not, 5'11", and it was important for them, to be a size 0. And so from a young age, I already felt like I'm not worthy. It was never taught to look inside. It was all about outside. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes I'm better now. I can leave without makeup, but I still love my lipstick.
Well, so the universe has this way of teaching you to accept yourself, Grace. So just be careful what you wish for. Because now you can see I don't have hair. I don't wear curlers.
I'm much better. I'm much better. And I used to be so angry with my mom, because we had a tumultuous relationship. And I heard you say something the other day and it resonated for me. And and you said that your mother's transition, because she was so young, her purpose was for you to step into your self-love.
Yeah, that just gave me.
And I'm gonna get emotional. And when I heard that, I said, and I've known that before about my mom, but I'm so stubborn, but I believe that. I believe that their purpose was here. They came to teach us how to do something a different way.
For sure. I was not able to hear her lessons while she was in this world.
Girl.
We went against each other. We went against each other so much. And I find myself wishing things were different, even though I know that they were exactly as they were meant to be.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's exactly as it was meant to be. And I remember on my mom's deathbed, she said, wow, I'm getting emotional. She said, they're with us. She said, don't make the same mistakes that I did. And it took me a little while, but then I remembered those words like 6 months, a year later, and I realized I was making the same mistakes that she did. And I had a choice to make, and it was to, save myself. I wasn't going to do it. I had to do it from within. And that's my journey started. They're fine.
Sorry, guys.
They're totally fine. I love those dogs.
3 German Shepherds barking. It's not going to be good for the podcast.
Okay.
So for 45 years, I was a codependent people pleaser and did not understand how emotions affected the body, and even with I fractured my foot the same year my mother transitioned, and it ended up to be an 18-month long recovery, which you would think, Grace, that I would learn from that experience, because I thought that I had hit rock bottom. But again, I was still looking outside of me for somebody to rescue me, instead of going inside and seeing what work needed to be done.
Mm-hmm. And you got to heal it. You got to feel it to heal it. And that's painful.
Yeah. But you know what I can say? Yes, it's painful. Yes. Integrating those pieces of our past is challenging, of course, but it's not nearly as hard as we think it's going to be to do the work. It's just like, if we can just power through it and get there, it's really not as bad as we think it's going to be. Because after every single like healing session, I'm like, God, if I could have done that sooner, if I would have known it was just going to be like that, I would have felt it and moved it and healed it. But I had fed the fear with my energy and attention and resistance for so long that I made it so much bigger than it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just mentioned something, the fear. And I feel like we're taught to live in fear, and it's neither good or bad. It just is, that's how our mind is wired. So we naturally go to the fear, and then we don't want to feel it because we're afraid. And then we start, eating, drinking, shopping, video games, whatever it is to numb that down. And I'm so grateful for this, but what we don't realize, or what people don't realize, is that on the other side of feeling the pain is freedom. Like you talked about, you're in ultimate freedom now.
Yeah, I got nothing left. I got nothing left to hide.
There's always something more to go, or we'd be dead.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing if we can just get out of our own way. Mm-hmm. And our body knows how to heal. Our body has everything it needs to heal. Our spirit is connected. If we just are able to still come into our body. So you talked on an important piece, and that's like the distraction. And for me, I completely disassociated. I didn't even know. We don't know when we're going through the motions and living our life and going through our checklist and running our errands. You don't know that you're not connected to spirit, right? You're just checking things off the list and making sure everybody gets what they need to have. But if we can just make a little bit of time and put ourselves up as a priority, I mean, and now it starts with me first thing in the morning. The first thing I do before I even get out of bed is connect with spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's a practice, and you have to be consistent, and it takes time to build that. But I spent 45 years unconnected, right? And what happened? Disease manifested in my body, and I almost died.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And spirit's always around us. Spirit, universe, God, a higher power, whatever you would like to call it. It's always around us, but we miss the signs because we're distracted.
Yeah.
Can you remember maybe one of the signs that you got? You were like, okay, there's spirit, there's the universe, there's God.
Oh, Gracie, there are so many signs. And I got him. It's not like I didn't get them the whole time. I wasn't, attuned with what was happening. It's just my ego would make excuses for them. Totally. So the sign came the whole time I've been in this body, right? But I talked myself out of them constantly, which I think is very common. I think most people, but it could have been there, or but it happened this way, or there's an explanation. Our ego can find an explanation for anything because we want to feel safe. Exactly. We want to feel like we're in control. Well, we're not in control, guys.
That word
never been in control. And so it really and this is a kind of a funny story, but it really wasn't until my mom transitioned that I even gave myself permission to feel something different. And so my sister flew into town, and we had the task after my mom, a few months after my mom's transition, of going through her closet. And this is a really funny story because it had to be a big one to get my attention, right? And so my dad was out of town. There was nobody in the house. My sister stayed with me. So I think it was for 3 days, we cleaned out her closet. And my mother was very proper. And she wore blouses, button down collared blouses with sheer and satin scarves. And she was just matchy and everything completely different than me. Okay. So we cleaned out her closet, and it was color coded. So there was a white section, a black section, and then it went through the whole hue of the rainbow. And within all of the clothes, all of the collared proper shirts and accessories, sometimes there was matching necklaces hanging. I imagine this is Yes.
I love it.
Like I imagine like how it must be like on a movie set when you're going through and you're going through all the clothes and you're like, oh yeah, here's the complete outfit. Like I'm just like whatever, right? So there's all of these outfits like that we were boxing up and donating and stuff. And my mother never wore any kind of comfortable clothes because again, it mattered what she looked like, and I never saw her without a face done or a hair done either, right? But as I was going through one of the sections of clothes, there was like this really lightweight, see-through, kind of very cheap material t-shirt. And it was the kind of t-shirt that you get at like the state fair, like when you win, like that kind of, or like, like those sport games where they throw out the t-shirts and stuff. So it was like that kind of t-shirt.
It definitely wouldn't be in her closet, sounds
like. Oh my God, my mother would never wear that. Ever in a million, like I'm telling you, like spirit had to hit me over the head with a 2x4, right? So there was this t-shirt, this t-shirt, and it had, and again, this was 5 or 6 years ago, and it had former President Bush on it, and he was like doing a hand signal like this, and it was like, "Do you miss me yet?" So that was the t-shirt, and I remember pulling this t-shirt and going, "What the? Isn't this weird?" And so that got my wheels going, and my sister and I were both like, yeah, that's strange. But again, there must be a reason, right? There must be a reason that this is here. And so we didn't really think anything of it, but I'll never forget that because I knew my spirit knew my ego was making excuses. And so at the end of that project, I took my sister to the airport. I was going back to my dad's house to wipe down the shelves in the closet and to pick up the bags for donations. And we had finished everything. And I always get emotional when I tell this story. And so when I walked in on one of the shelves that I had already cleaned, that was already empty. I mean, it was a white. It was like we were moving out. It was completely cleared out. And there was this ring. Let's see.
I love that ring. It's beautiful.
It's like my Wonder Woman power ring. There was this ring just sitting just perfectly on one of the white shelves in the closet. And my mother had lost this ring about 3 years before when her memory started failing. She had misplaced a lot of things. And this ring was very important to her. I was with her when she purchased it, and I knew how much she loved it. And she had a lot of shame around the fact that she lost it because of the failing memory piece. And so I knew that there was a connection with this ring. Well, that ring was right there on the shelf, just waiting for me.
But you had cleaned and it wasn't there before and everything was gone. And then you came back and it was there. Yeah, that's crazy.
My dad's out of town. There's no explanation except that I was meant to have the ring.
Yes. I love that story. I love that story.
I love that story too. And so I always wear this ring when I want to connect with my mom. And that was the changing point for me. Like, okay, here I am. And so, yeah.
And that helped you be, open to those messages where we can say, okay, that's weird, that's crazy. But in reality, that's really the universe, spirit, talking to us. And it took me a long time to be open to receive those messages. Cause I think, okay, Grace, that's crazy. But now even my friends and family know, like if I say something or if I tell them this happened, they're like, yeah, that sounds about right for you. And we all have it. But I had a story a few months ago that also blew my mind. I was going through a challenging time within the family. There's like these major decisions that had to be made. And I didn't know what to do. I felt lost and just, both my parents are gone. So I didn't have them to turn to. And I get a phone call from my neighbor across the street who was friends with my parents. And he really never calls me. And he says, hey, Grace, how are you? I said, I'm good, Fred. How are you? He said, I was cleaning out a drawer and I found the cards from your dad's funeral. So, when there's a funeral, they make the cards. And I'm like, really? That was like 8 years ago. And he said, yeah. He goes, would you like them? I'm going to bring them to you. And I said, sure. And I just went about doing my stuff, I was washing the dishes. And then literally half an hour later, I'm like, that was a sign. That was my dad. telling me it's going to be okay. Like, how random.
Oh, I just got chills.
Right?
I just got chills.
I'm like, how random is, Fred, and I love Fred. Just, we're all busy. Like, for him to call me and find those in that moment, I'm standing in the kitchen feeling stressed about this situation. And I was like, yeah, sure. But it was like a hour later when I put the two together to be like, oh my gosh, thank you, Dad.
Right. That thing, that like, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. It's that feeling that makes it all so good.
Yeah. And I also believe, like, I've been on the same journey too, trying to connect more. Like, in the morning, I have a routine. I also believe when we take the time to pray, meditate, we become more open to those signs. And I know when I'm under stress or I'm disconnected, disassociated, I have a harder time picking up on those messages.
Oh, yeah. I would say meditation is single-handedly the thing that propelled me forward. Absolutely. So I had that sign from my mom with the ring. And then I think it was, soon afterwards that symptoms really started showing up in my body. And, at first I was looking for doctors and I was looking outside me for help. And as the universe does, I was quickly shown that the universe had other plans for me than Western medicine. Western medicine told my family that I was looking for attention, that I was mentally ill, that there was nothing physically wrong with me, et cetera. And so that really gave me an opportunity then to hit rock bottom and no longer look for external validation. Mm-hmm. And so it was then that I remembered, God, that ring, right? I don't think what I would have been able to make that leap without the universe putting a really big obstacle in my way. Because although I was like, okay, I like the signs, this is fun. When push came to shove, and I guess there was illness, I still wanted somebody to help me. I still wanted somebody to fix me, even though I knew, even though I knew it was still easier, I thought, for somebody else to take care of it.
So what would for the people watching, like, what would be a first step if we're stuck in that people pleasing and the codependency and just looking for validation outside of ourselves and failing, because we're going to fail? What would you say is the first step someone can take to get closer to themselves and to God, spirit, universe?
Well, and I know this is hard. I mean, the first step, at least for me, had to be stillness. And I don't, and even though my body had been still, because of the symptom, I couldn't walk, I couldn't see, I couldn't hear, like I had completely withdrawn and gone in, I had to be still, but I also had to be present. And so although I had been still throughout those symptoms, I wasn't present. I was checked out. I was longing for rescue. And so, and I think that's where meditation comes in. So a great, it's just a really easy way to get present that I know I like easy. I like easy things.
Me too. Ease and grace. I don't want anything hard, too hard stuff for all my life.
So one little trick, and I'm sure it's in all the books, or it's not anything special, but one of the tricks that really works for me is, of course, hand on the heart. Everybody's heard that one, but also I go through my 5 senses. What are 5 things I can see? What are 5 things I can hear? What can I taste? What can I see? And I literally come back into my body with my senses. And then once I'm in there, and for me, that's a really key piece. Once I'm in my body, then meditate. So a lot of people, and I in the beginning did as too, I wanted to meditate to leave my body. Well, the thing is I don't have any problems leaving my body. That's easy for me.
Most of them don't. Me too.
I can check out all the time. It was being grounded in my body, feeling what was happening in my body, and then intentionally choosing the experience I wanted to have. Instead of being on default and allowing the environment to determine my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like taking the reins back, right?
Sure. Because you're right. We're always reactive. We get up, we go, we're fast. We don't even feel what's happening. Sometimes I would drive home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm home. Like, how did I get here?
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm like, what the hell? Or, someone just called and like, they just called you. I'm like, they did, so I didn't realize that was being disassociated, that was out of my body. I just thought that was normal. Right. Yeah. And one thing I love about you, Brandi, and I'm so grateful to you for, is that there's been so many times when I'm feeling some type of way, but I don't know how to express it. I don't know how to communicate it. I'll be feeling things in my body or in my spirit. And then here's Brandi. She comes on into our group and says, this is what I experienced today. And I'm like, thank you, Brandi. That's how I'm feeling. And I'm so grateful to that, because you've helped me learn to communicate what I'm feeling. And I feel like a lot of us that are disassociated, from our body, we don't even know how to express what we're feeling.
I wouldn't have even known I was disassociated. I literally had no idea. Like, I'm like, yeah. I know what they, like, yeah. Like those people over there.
I was like, I just thought I have ADD. I can't pay attention to all.
No, embodiment is no joke. Like, and that's the crazy thing. We have to be in our body to heal. Like, I know it sounds really simple. And speaking of that, do you know what else that I learned? We have to be in our body when we exercise to lose weight. So isn't that interesting? So
that's interesting.
Yeah, like when we're walking and stuff, sometimes in the beginning, I would have a tendency to check out, thinking about what I needed to do, thinking about whatever, but not, so we heal, we do everything in our body. The whole challenge here is how to get us anchored in, or at least
yes. And I agree with you in regards to the meditation. And I loved what you talked about the senses, because even when I'm in meditation, it's hard for me. So I'm still all over. And of course, I definitely have some good sessions, but I like what you said about checking into the senses and then kind of just getting centered that way. I think that's great.
And bath meditations, you have to do bath meditations. That's the Grace. Like, first of all, I didn't even like baths, and I wasn't a real big fan of meditation either. I really didn't like any of them, but you put them together and you have an hour by yourself in your bathroom once a day. Okay. Can I just talk to you like that? It's divine. Like, now
I look, because I want to do that. And I remember one time when I was venting, like, oh my God, I'm always alone. They're not home. And, I'm and you're like, girl, take a bath, spend an hour. And I'm like, I never thought about that, because I'm wanting validation from everything outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a beautiful bath ritual.
I do have a beautiful bath ritual. And I would really encourage anybody who wants to do some meditation. Water is a great incubator for that energy. It's so easy. Especially, it's harder for me to meditate. There's lots of different times, you can sit and you can do yoga, you can do walking. There's lots of different ways to meditate, but something about water is like, it feels like a womb. Mm-hmm. It feels safe. It feels secure. It feels like a womb. The energy flows through. So even if you can just very, in basic, be in a bath and have intention just to be still for 5 minutes, start there and see what wisdom comes through, because the answers are all just waiting. It's just up to us to pull them through.
That's right. We have everything we need. All the answers we need are within us. Yeah. It's just getting still enough to hear it.
And so on that point, I'll tell you, it was during meditation, specifically these bath meditations, after I became present and did my senses, that I was then guided to healers that could help me heal my body. Mm-hmm. So that was the first step. I had to be open. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, oh, and then, a name would cross my list, or I was literally like following a trail of breadcrumbs, one sign after another. I'm like, oh, so this is how we do it. So we get, each time we get still, every time I go into meditation, I get another piece of the puzzle. Mm. And so it kind of becomes fun after a while. And it did ultimately lead me to, it led me to Sunny, it led me to the mastermind group, and it led me to doctors that had the answers for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I love that, because once we put that message out to the universe that, like, I'm ready to receive, I'm open to a different way, then all of those steps start lining up for us one after another.
And it literally all started with stillness.
Mm-hmm.
It all started. I don't think I would have ever received anything without making the space
to, get rid of the distractions.
Right.
Which is why meditation and prayer are so important. And I remember, 20 years ago, I had a coach that said, you should meditate. And I was like, get the F out of here. Do you think I have time? I was too stubborn and too naive at that time. Mm-hmm. But now, like you, I agree. It's like when I get quiet, those messages come.
And another one that I really like, because I was the same way, meditation, whatever, all this woo-woo stuff, I believe in science. That's how I was. But another one that I really liked, and I love walking meditations, and I really like using my camera with walking meditations. And you so picture. Oh, well, thank you. And so the same thing, getting present instead of the five senses, you can use your camera, your cell phone. And if you're out walking, you see something you want to take a picture of. A great way to get present is to take that picture and take it from 10 different angles.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So it shows you a different perspective. It's the same thing. So you get high, get low, get sideways, be funky, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It helps you get present. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a different perspective.
I like that a lot. And you take awesome pictures too. I never thought about the different. So there's different perspectives in the pictures, just like in life. We can look at the same, both of us can look at the same situation and have a different perspective to it. Just like, the illnesses.
For sure. To one doctor, mm-hmm. I was looking for attention from my husband. To another doctor, my body, mind, and spirit had created the perfect storm for illness to manifest. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we call that is the universal 2x4. Like when we're not listening and keep making the same, choices over and over that are not healthy for us, that's when we get, hit sideways to choose differently.
Right.
And so what, even though it was terrible and you suffered and struggled for so long, what was the lesson in all of this?
So the lesson was, my spirit knew, Grace, when I was dying, I knew I was dying. I knew I was sick and nobody could hear me. And my message was that I only needed to hear myself. It only mattered what I thought.
Yes.
And it took me a lot of pain to come back to that realization,
Yeah, because we're conditioned to pay attention to what everyone else's opinion is about us, when at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're worthy no matter what, regardless of outside.
And we're still a work in progress, Grace. And I'm still learning. So this all happened a couple of years ago. And I, sometimes I like to think, well, I'm evolved and enlightened and, I have all this wisdom now. No. Let me just, do we have time for me to share a little bit about my son?
Please do.
So I thought, like, I had healed this piece, Grace. I thought, I'm good. I'm good. Life threw this at me and I am good. And then recently, so I'll share something that I'm currently walking through. Because I, of all people, know that the systems, and in this specific case, the medical system, is just one perspective. Right. I know that. I know it better than anybody because it almost cost me my life. Mm-hmm. And then 4 weeks ago, I have two sons. My 15-year-old son was riding one of these electric skateboards and fell, and his collarbone was obviously broken. Okay. So thankfully he was wearing a helmet and didn't have a concussion. So take him to the emergency room. And because of COVID, only one parent's allowed in. And so I waited I waited outside. And while they're in there, my husband sends me a text with the picture of the x-ray. Okay. I've only shared this one other time. So I'm getting all emotional. He sent me a picture of the x-ray with the diagnosis underneath it that said the fracture was a result of bone disease from a lytic lesion, a bone lesion that was indicative of cancer. What? So in that moment, I know I was totally unaware, checked out, right? Saw that, my body went into a nervous response, PTSD, remembered my body was like, oh, I know what we do when we're stressed and we are feeling unsafe. Whoop, flew out of my body, right? So now I'm disassociated. So the hospital encouraged us to get our son in immediately to Phoenix Children's Hospital. This was on a weekend. There's nothing we can do. And I will tell you that I went through a very mini dark night of the soul that I had experienced this time with regards to my son that I had previously experienced with myself, you know, the years before. I unknowingly and unconsciously, because now I'm not in my body, completely fed the fear, fed it. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Is that what they say? Hook, line, and sinker. Mm-hmm. They spit it out and I sucked it up as truth just in that moment without even realizing it. And this is somebody who knows better. I create for a good 24, 48 hours, I created stories in my head.
I'm here with you.
That no parent wants to think about. And the fear grew bigger and bigger. And my nervous system responded. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was sick. And I was living on autopilot because my son wasn't even aware of what the correspondence was at the hospital. So he was in the dark. So I was playing a part, if you will, thank goodness, for those days. It wasn't until two healers, Sunny and Kate, actually helped bring me back into my body and remind me what I knew. What I know is that our body can heal anything. What I know is that the doctors were just showing that there was an indication of something out of alignment. Okay. That's what I know. I had forgot. And they threw out a story and I took it as truth. And I had created a whole future timeline that I didn't even want in my head. That was exactly the opposite of what I wanted. And I know better. So I share this with you because it's so easy. It can come in, it kind of like the energy comes in the back door almost. And if we're not present, and if we disassociate, and if we're not intentional with our thoughts, we are creating by default.
Yes.
So I literally had to energetically pull those. I know that sounds crazy.
It's not crazy.
I'll pull those thoughts back and come back to my center, come back to my heart and surrender again. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I share this with you because I really, really think during those days, the timeline was undecided. I know that sounds woo-woo.
No, it's not. And the timeline was undecided. And
I chose the one that felt better. And I started visualizing what I wanted to happen. I started feeling in my body how I would feel when we heard that they were that it was a mistake. I had to raise my vibration higher in order to be open to receive the guidance. Mm. And within about 24 hours, I was able to turn it around because of the tools that we have.
Yes.
Which, I think, I did it pretty fast, and I'm grateful for that. But make no mistake, it can come in and sweep you without you even knowing.
Oh, for sure.
And so what happened, and just to give you, some closure, is when my son did finally go to Phoenix Children's Hospital, and we manifested an appointment right away, and it was great. They felt that the X-ray was read wrong in the emergency room. And he just went yesterday for a 4-week checkup, and the bone is healing nicely, and there's no reason for concern. So I share that because how easy, it was so easy. It was I just gave it away. I just bought it.
Yeah.
And it's energy, right? Our energy is our currency. And I bought it with my energy, and I gave it all away, and I gave my power away, just like I had previously done to myself. And this time I did it here, but I learned a lot faster.
Yeah. And it's so easy to do when we go into that fear, especially as mothers, when it comes to our children. But what's beautiful, and I'm just getting emotional, and thank you so much for sharing, with our audience and people that are watching on the replay, that we get to choose the story. And I know it's not easy, and I know it sounds woo-woo, and there wasn't, even in that moment, there was nothing, wrong. This is a story that they gave you the information, and then our mind runs away with it. And how beautiful that you were able to bring it back and create a different story.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't easy, Grace.
No, it's not.
And the whole time, and this is another important point that just dropped in, is that, so even while I was disconnected and feeding this fear, I still had spirit telling me, it's okay. Everything's okay. This is a learning. I knew that. I had those messages, and I was like, okay, yes, I hear you, but I hear you, but I hear you, but
the ego, your ego's powerful.
I hear you.
Safe.
So, the messages are coming. It's up to us to use discernment and to be intentional with our thoughts. I mean, there is such a big level of personal responsibility for our lives that, I never even knew about. Did you, before all this?
No, are you kidding? I was a bit, I blamed everything outside of me, and why me? And oh my God.
Right. We're victims, right? Yeah. It's easy to be a victim.
It's easy to be a victim. And then you could, blame everything outside of you.
Right.
And I love the laws of the universe. I love the principles, because I've been able to, and just like you, take shitty circumstances and, turn them, of course, not everything's always going to be roses, but I do believe there's always a lesson, a purpose that comes out of even the most challenging and traumatic situations, as hard as that may sound.
For sure. I was on death's bed, right? I prayed for death. I had planned my suicide. I wrote my goodbye letters, literally. That's where I was. And that's what it took for me to wake up to the truth and remember who I am.
Girl, you are a badass. I love you. And I love this message. And it just resonates. And before I let you go.
Okay.
I was I could go on forever with you.
I know we have lots of friends saying hi. Hi friends on
there. Oh, Krista. And Tip was on, Andy, Gus. I saw Melinda. It's also awesome to see you guys. Victoria, Robinette. So before I let you go, because I know I can go on forever. Yeah. Tell us something fun about you, a fun fact about you that most of us don't know.
A fun fact? Well, this is out of left field. I didn't know about this, Grace. What is a fun fact? Okay, fun fact. Do you want from childhood or now?
Girl, whatever you want to share.
All right, fun fact. When I was little, I was on the box of a Shrinky-Dink box.
Nice.
You know what? I was also on an Oscar Mayer wiener hot dog commercial.
Okay, that's the best. I could sing that song right now.
Well, that's the song that just see what is that? I don't even know what it is.
I love it. I love it. Oh my God. You are just a shining light. You are, a lighthouse. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it. It was so fun.
Thank you, Grace. And thank you, friends. I'll go back and look in the comments and touch base with everybody.
And so for those of you, for those, I know many of our audience definitely knows Brandi, but for those who may not know you, Brandi, where can they find you and connect with you?
So if I do have a Facebook page, it's Brandi Strieter. It's Strieter spelled weird. It's STRIETER. You can find me there. And I also have a website that's kind of in the works. And it's brandistrieter.com. Brandi, BRANDI, Strieter, STRIETER. And if you go there, you can sign up for an email and you get a free gift. It's 5 tips to peace and presence. So
awesome. I love it. Awesome. And this will also go up on our podcast platform. And so when they do listen, the information will also be in the text content below. So
exciting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. Let's see. Yeah, we'll definitely go back and look at the comments. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys, especially for our first go live. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, friends. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Hey, love. Thank you so much for listening today. I am so grateful for you. I'd like to show you my appreciation by gifting you a free forgiveness self-hypnosis audio download. Part of living the fun and fabulous life is practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness can be such a long and challenging process. My intention is that this forgiveness audio will help you in practicing forgiveness, especially with yourself. Grab it by visiting 𝘗𝑦𝑡ℎ.com/forgiveness. For more inspiring tips, make sure to connect with me on social media. Drop me a line on Facebook or Instagram at Grace Redman 𝘗𝘳𝘢𝑥. Until next time, keep moving forward towards living your fabulous life.